Hello, welcome back to the Black and White Podcast. Thank you for listening today, wherever you are. Episode 7. We hope that you subscribe. My name's Josh, and it's co-host Josh.
Hello.
There was another good week of games. We had, I feel like maybe a little bit less scoring, but we had some good games though.
I feel like the catches this week were just insane.
Yeah.
Every few minutes, I felt like I was just what a catch!
Yeah, every couple catches, it seemed like in the Bills and Chiefs game, that Stephon Diggs catch,
that end zone catch.
Oh my
where
goodness!
You literally, there was only one way you could catch that, and he did. And
but it was like he didn't catch that. I was like, Dad, I think he might have caught it.
It was insane, an insane throw and an insane catch. It was just incredible. And there's just so many.
Been really crazy with a lot of great catches this year.
Yeah, and do you think that's because there aren't fans? Do you think that the receivers are able to focus a little bit more, or
I don't know. I think that the receivers would probably be doing this regardless, though.
Yeah,
I think they're all great receivers.
They are great. Yeah,
I think that I don't know. I don't think that the environment would affect a receiver as much, just because it's like it doesn't take differences to make great catches. I don't know if it would mess up your focus. If you're a great receiver, I mean, I feel like you're making those catches regardless.
Yeah, if you're a great receiver, you're gonna catch it no matter what. I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like it does have a bit of an impact because you don't have these screaming fans. I mean, you do still have some crowd noise, but it's probably a lot quieter than what it would be in a lot of big time situations. Sure. And it takes so much focus to track the ball, catch it, make sure your feet are in bounds. So I feel like elite receivers and great receivers can do it no matter what, but I think it just helps even so just a bit for them just to be able to come in clutch with some of these catches. I don't know. I feel like it just has like a small impact, but maybe not huge.
Yeah. No, I think that we'll see. I mean, we don't really know for sure, but now that fans are starting to come back, maybe there'll be less good catches.
Yeah, I saw a stat the other day. Pretty much the stat was teams with no fans tend to lose a lot more at home than teams with fans.
Really?
Right now is like what the stats are saying. And I mean, I could definitely understand that because I mean, fans do impact the game, which is, I mean, it's pretty cool to see that we actually kind of have the stats now showing that fans do impact the game, which is cool. But I'm
sure, especially on offense, quarterback
and
signal callers would barely be able to hear anything at Ravens Stadium whenever. I mean, you could imagine it would have at least made a slight difference with the hammering we took against Kansas City to have a full stadium of Ravens fans. You'd think.
Yeah, it definitely impacts it for sure. So, like you said, as fans come back, we'll see if that has any large impacts. But there were a lot of good games last week that we can start talking about. Starting with...
Oh, yeah. We'll start with Arizona Cardinals and Dallas Cowboys. Dallas, they played bad.
Yeah.
We'll say that. Andy Dalton only had 34 of 54 and didn't really do much at all.
Why is Andy Dalton throwing 54 times?
It's just, I feel as if Dallas just couldn't get it together this week. I think that it's slightly an overreaction, though, to say that their team is in turmoil, I guess. Because, I mean, they just did lose Dak, and Andy Dalton was with Cincinnati for a long time, so he probably is going to need some time to get adjusted to the offense. I'm not saying that Andy Dalton's ceiling is, as high as Dak's was, but at least he can win some games for them, especially because Zeke wasn't at his best. He had 2 lost fumbles, had no touchdowns, only had 12 carries for 49 yards.
And those 2 lost fumbles went for 14 points.
Exactly. And then the Cardinals got, I mean, not everything went the Cowboys' way necessarily, because they had the play where CeeDee Lamb came out on a slant pass and then got actually tackled by a Cardinals cornerback quarterback, like actually tackled by the Cardinals cornerback. And then to top it all off, CeeDee Lamb got tackled, and then the cornerback caught the ball and got an interception. No flag thrown, nothing. And that resulted in a touchdown as well.
I forgot
so
about that.
we have that's 3 touchdowns here. They lose by 28.
Just off of
That's 3 touchdowns, literally off of turnovers that they just lost. Mm-hmm. So, sure, Andy Dalton was very bad. 38.7 quarterback rating. So he was very poor. But you can see a little bit of a silver lining here. You can see the silver lining for, hey, we gave up 21 at least of our 38 points off of just turnovers that we can prevent in our offense. At the very least, we can prevent those in our offense, and the defense, sure, their defense is bad, but we can prevent these mistakes from happening in at least the offense. So maybe we punt the ball and they still get a touchdown, but at least we're not giving the ball back with no field left. The defense has to defend maybe 30 yards before a touchdown, and they just came off the field. So yeah, and then Arizona really they stuck to a really balanced game plan. They had 24 passing attempts and 35 rushing attempts combined with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray had 10 himself, so they had 25 rushing attempts, 24 passing attempps. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
And so they had really bad. Kyler Murray only completed nine passes.
Yeah, he didn't have a great night.
So but he had 2 touchdowns. So he just didn't. I just think they didn't need him to. He still had 84.
Well, he went 9 for 24, so that's not a good night. But Kenyon Drake played all right.
They didn't need him to. He had 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then Kenyon Drake had 20 for 164 and 2 touchdowns. But then also Kyler Murray had 10 rushes for 74 yards on a touchdown.
Rushing, he was good.
All in all, he had like 52 yards combined with 3 touchdowns. And he had a quarterback rating of 93.7. So it's not like I'm not saying he was awful, but I think that at least with Kyler, they have stuff they can work on. And it's a really good sign to see that Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds are starting to get better and better in the season.
Yeah, give Kyler Murray some help.
For sure. I'm really excited to see that. Yeah, because I think that Chase Edmonds seems like he's coming right up on Kenyon Drake's tail on snap counts.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to push him and see if he can really push his way into the backfield. So I'm excited to see down the course of the season how that pans out.
Yeah, I'm excited for this Arizona team. I think that they have a lot of potential, and I think within the next year or two, they could definitely be contenders, like Super Bowl contenders,
for sure.
Really. Kyler Murray is very good, and he's showing a lot of development this year. They have DeAndre Hopkins, and then, Kenyon Drake, when he plays all right, and Chase Edmonds, who looks pretty good. So they're definitely a good team that I'm very excited for. And the Cowboys, every year I'm excited for them, but then they always disappoint. This year, obviously, Dak Prescott went down. They couldn't do much about that. Andy Dalton came in. Like you said, he needs to learn the offense. You got to give him at least, I feel like, 2 to 3 weeks, because you figure this whole time he's been practicing with the second team. He's not practicing with the first team. He has to develop chemistry and all that. And Zeke, he fumbled twice. He had all the pressure on him. He had to step up. He had to be the guy. It was on him to win that game, and he fumbled it twice. So it was really just as on him as it was on anyone else. Yeah. And maybe even more so him, because he's this elite player. They're paying him all this money. You got to step up in these games. So Zeke isn't playing well this year. He's just not holding on to the ball. Last night there was the one catch he had. He was holding the ball out away from him, and the defender punched it away. And it was like, why aren't you holding that? Even the commentator was like, come on, that's lazy play. Hold on to the ball with both arms, obviously. So he's fumbled 5 times this year and lost 4 fumbles. 2 just last night when he should have been the guy. So he's really got to step up in these big games, and he's got to get control of the ball. I don't know what's going on, but he's got to really get that down, because you saw Tony Pollard come out and take a few more snaps than he definitely would have this game. He almost took an entire drive after Zeke's second fumble. So he was taking some time away from Zeke because, I mean, he can't hold on to the ball. Mm-hmm. Like you said, he's the reason they were down so much so early on, and that's hard to come back from. So it's going to be interesting to really watch both of these teams develop because, you know, the Cardinals, they're in a great spot right now. The Cowboys are trying to survive. Mm-hmm. They're still leading their division at 2-4 somehow. Yeah. So, I mean, Andy Dalton could potentially get them to the playoffs, which is crazy at 2-4. But yeah, both teams, you know, they're really fighting for a playoff spot and for their division. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a fun game.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see more from the Cowboys as they get a little bit better, and I'm excited to see more for the Cardinals now and in the future.
For sure. Yeah. The next game we're going to go to is Cleveland and Pittsburgh, the Browns and Steelers. So this was a
game again.
Yeah, I think we said last week about how this week was a huge week for the Browns. For the Steelers, it was another week, basically, just a division game.
Yeah.
The Browns had everything to prove. The Steelers really had nothing to prove. They were a great team already. Mm. The Browns came into this game and proved nothing.
Absolutely.
They showed that they still can't win the big games that they gotta win.
They can't even compete in the big games, really.
No, it was 38-7. Baker Mayfield went 10 for 18 with 119 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And, like, that's horrible. But Kareem Hunt got 40 yards on 13 attempts. That's it. And he was their leading rusher. Austin Hooper was their leading receiver with 4 targets, but only 3 receptions of 50 yards. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what happened. I mean, I know the Steelers have a really good defense, but from what we saw from the Browns, they still should have been able to compete. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was going to be a pretty close game.
Yeah, and you could see maybe that could also be Baker's injury. Maybe his ribs are worse than what we thought. But
yeah, because he said he was going to play through it. He said he was going to tough it out earlier on in the week. Like you said, maybe it could have definitely been worse than we thought.
Sure.
We can give him the benefit of the doubt and see if he bounces back. They have to beat the Bengals next week. That's a big game. And, you know, that game could really go either way. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of, I mean, at 4-2, it's like their best start in I don't even know how long. And they're in a good spot right now. They're tied with us for the division. I mean, technically they're under us, but, you know, record-wise. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just 6 games into the season, the Browns they're usually kind of out of it already. Mm-hmm. So
they're still 0-6 at this point.
Yeah. So they're definitely not in like a crazy like this is our season game next week, but I mean, they do have to make a statement. They do have to win this game. So yeah, they didn't give fans or really anyone much of a reason to believe in them here because, I mean, they just didn't do anything. And then Ben Roethlisberger, he went 14 for 22, 162 yards and a touchdown. Not like a crazy game at all, but it was plenty. It was just their defense was so good. Their rushing game was really good. James Conner had 20 rushes for 101 yards and a touchdown. And then Snell had a touchdown, and Claypool had a touchdown. Yeah. And I think that's Claypool's second rushing touchdown of the year. So, and then in receiving, Claypool led the receiving yards as well with 4 receptions for 74 yards. And he's really showing that he's a legit receiver, and he's giving Steelers fans something to be excited about, and Roethlisberger a really good target. He almost feels like the Juju Smith type deal to Antonio Brown, whereas he's that to Juju Smith. But Juju Smith isn't really producing much this year.
Yeah, and they have a really loaded receiving core, really.
Yeah.
With Deontay Johnson and Claypool. They also have James Washington
who scored a touchdown.
So, yeah, the Steelers are never short of receivers. Their Steelers always have their receivers, and they either have them undrafted or they have them drafted very low. They usually don't spend a lot of picks on them, but the Steelers are just a really good organization that knows how to do that.
They develop them very well. Mm-hmm. Like we've said before, like they're great at drafting receivers, like we are at linebackers.
Exactly.
And like we're each other's weaknesses. Mm-hmm. We're good at drafting.
Yeah. So I feel like we'll see definitely see better days for Cleveland. Mm-hmm. I think that Baker is still working into and understanding the offense. I do actually feel that Baker is holding them back and is not the end solution at quarterback, though.
Yeah.
I will say that I don't think that... I don't know. I just feel as if Baker has an inability to find everyone in the offense. I think that Baker is more of a one-read guy, but I'm just not sure. I don't think that he is long-term there, though. It seems as if Kevin Stefanski, though, actually is a good coach. It seems like his offense works. It seems like the situation is there, but they need I think they need a little bit better of a quarterback that is able to make a little bit more, maybe make more plays outside of the pocket and be able to make reads when the pocket does break down. Because I think that Baker is very a one read guy, and if he's not more than one read, then he kind of collapse and he doesn't know how to get out of the pocket very well at times.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see with Cleveland. I think that they still have very good days ahead. It's not, I don't think that Baker is a bad quarterback, but I just don't know if he's long term great for them.
Well, riddle me this. Do you think the Browns go to the playoffs this year?
Do you think the Browns go to the playoffs this year? Let's look at their schedule. Why don't we?
Yeah. It's a hard question. I don't know their schedule.
Okay, so they have the Bengals, they have the Raiders. Then the Texans, Eagles, Jaguars, Titans, Ravens, Giants, Jets, and Steelers. I know that that's a lot I just said.
It was, but it's okay.
But I don't know. I think it just depends on how Baker rebounds from this loss. If Baker rebounds from this loss and he comes out against the Bengals potentially flat, then I don't know. I think this is a spot in their season where they already beat the Bengals once this year, and they need to say we need to beat them again. But ultimately, I could see Cleveland making the playoffs. Yes, I think that the AFC middle ground of the AFC is really meant to be taken. But really, you think about it, there's probably only one spot there that's wild card wise, because you would think that probably one of Pittsburgh or Baltimore is going to have one of those wild card spots. Yeah. I mean, now this year we have added extra people, so you would think that maybe Cleveland gets in this year because we have a whole other playoff spot, so we have more difference. It'll be way different. So we'll see.
Looking at these games, I can see them winning 7 of them. Mm-hmm. The thing is, all right, I'll just go through them real quick. The Bengals, I think they'll probably win. Las Vegas, I think they could win. They at least have a shot. Houston definitely could win. You know, it could go either way. Philly, I see them winning. Jacksonville, probably winning. Tennessee, probably a loss. Baltimore, probably a loss. Giants, they'll probably win. Jets, probably win. And Pittsburgh, I would say a loss again. So, I mean, that's up to 7 games that I could see them potentially pulling out if they're playing well.
Yeah.
They'd have to be playing pretty well. I mean, their offense has put up 6 against us, 35 Cincinnati, 34, 49, 32. So they've scored over 30 points against their previous teams that they've gone against before the Steelers and after us. The thing is, all the teams that they've scored these 30-plus points on haven't been top 5 defenses.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
The Ravens' defense is really good. The Steelers' defense is really good. So they haven't really shown that they can really score on great teams. They've showed that they can score on bad teams, which is something a good team has to do. Mm-hmm. But you also have to at least be in contention with these great teams. And Baltimore, 38-36, and then they faced the Steelers. It was 38-7, almost the same exact score against 2 really good defenses.
Exactly.
So who's to say that? I mean, J.J. Watt's a good defender. You know, I mean, these bad teams. Some of these bad teams have decent defenses, and can Baker overcome that? I don't know. So we'll have to see. But on the Steelers side, I see them. They'll get a playoff spot more than likely. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. They have a very good team, a good defense. Ben's playing pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
Their offense is running. James Conner's going off. So they have a good team. And, they're going to be competing with everyone else. It's going to be us and them probably the whole year head of the division. I think we'll take the division, but, it's one of those things that could really go either way. The Steelers are playing well enough, as much as I hate to admit. But I do think the Ravens will take the division, but we'll see. It's a very good division, though. One of the best divisions in the league. I was looking at all the records, and we have one of the best because, we have 3 teams with 4 or more wins.
Yeah.
And the Bengals, they're not bad. They're going to, within the next year or two, the AFC North is going to be a crazy division. And who knows, you could possibly see all 4 teams in the playoffs at one point because now they have that added game of full division can go in. And we've had 3 before. Who's to say we can't get a 4th?
Exactly.
But yeah, it wasn't a fun game. I was hoping the Browns would win, but the Steelers won. They're still in the lead of the division right now. They've played one less game than us. They have a hard game coming up against the Titans that you're going to talk about. But, yeah, we'll see. I think that it's going to be a very competitive division this year, and I do think that both teams will be fighting for a playoff spot if they don't both make it.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see more from the Steelers and especially the Browns because the Browns have always been bad, and we'll see if they're not bad this year.
Yeah, it's just you never know. With the Steelers, they're going to be good. They're always going to be in contention. With the Browns, you just you just don't know.
Exactly. So now we'll go to Tampa Bay and Green Bay. I feel like there's not a whole lot to talk about this game also because this was another 38-10 blowout. It's funny, I talked about both games I spoke about are 38-10 games.
That is funny.
But yeah, no, really Aaron Rodgers played so poor, but this, Green Bay, this was 4-1. So I feel as if Green Bay came into this game and they didn't have a whole lot to prove. I don't think that Green Bay necessarily has a lot to prove. We already know that they're going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. I think that it would have been better if they could have gone out and played really well against Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay's defense just really put it on Aaron, and Aaron, I don't think, was able to make the adjustments that he could fast enough for the game to not get away from him. And then Tom Brady was 17-27, 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. So nothing crazy passing, but still, they got the win, and Ronald Jones had 113 yards on 23 carries and 2 touchdowns, so he played great. Gronkowski's continuing to produce, and if they can really fit Gronkowski in that offense, if they can really fit Gronkowski in the offense, then they can really get production in general with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So I think that Tampa Bay is really the sky's the limit. How much can they protect? How much can they block and protect Tom Brady? Because you've seen that when Tom Brady's in a clean pocket, he normally can make throws. But when the pocket's even kind of dirty, he sees a little trouble and he gets out of the pocket a lot and can't function as well because he's not mobile. He doesn't have really, the mobility of anything since he's 40-some years old.
Yeah, it really does come down to that line and how well they can protect him because if he's expecting pressure, he'll fold. Sometimes he'll just kind of, sit down, before he can get tackled. So that's one of those things that the line really has to protect him.
Yeah.
And with the Packers, do you think it was Aaron Rodgers having a bad night, or do you think it was just the Tampa Bay defense is that good that they just shut down Aaron Rodgers and company like that?
I think that the Tampa Bay defense is just very good. Tampa Bay has a really good defense, and they really have kind of low-key imposed their will against a lot of teams. So I think that with Tampa Bay's defense and their offense having the potential, really Tampa Bay looks as one of the best, if not the best team in the NFC, if Tom Brady can play up to what he normally can play. But
it's almost like watching the Patriots. on the Buccaneers, like as the Buccaneers now. Because, the Patriots have always had a really good defense. The Buccaneers have a really good defense now. And then they have Tom Brady and probably the best weapons he's ever had in his career.
Yeah.
And so it really comes down to how well Brady can play.
Exactly.
And I mean, he showed that he can play well enough to get some wins. And this was a really big game that he won. And it had a lot of implications with Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. I think this was their third time.
Yeah, I think so.
Tom Brady got 2 of those wins, so he kind of goes down in the books as the best because this was for that title. Whether you like it or not, Tom Brady beat Aaron Rodgers a majority of the time that they faced. So, Aaron Rodgers, I hate him. He had a bad game. He had really didn't do much, and I really enjoyed watching that. I don't really like Tom Brady either, but now that he's not in the AFC, I don't have to worry about it so much. So I'd kind of rather see Aaron Rodgers struggle, especially after he made the comment about his bad night being other quarterbacks' career nights, and I don't think that any quarterback would want to have that night. So you might want to take a slice of humble pie, Aaron Rodgers, and get your life together and maybe call your family. I don't know.
Just maybe.
But yeah, that was a good game with a very different outcome than I thought it would have. Yeah. I sat their defense in fantasy because Aaron Rodgers is the number one, scoring offense, him and the Packers. But on to the next game.
Yeah.
With much lower profile quarterbacks, Washington and the New York Giants. We have Kyle Allen versus Daniel Jones, the quarterback matchup we've all been waiting for.
Oh, yeah.
There were 3 total touchdowns thrown. Kyle Allen had 2 with an interception, 280 yards. He went 31-42. Not awful. And Daniel Jones went 12 for 19, 112 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Kind of awful. So the Giants won this game, though. Daniel Jones added another 74 yards on the ground, and their defense kept them in that game for sure. So the defense had 1 touchdown, as many as Daniel Jones, but the defense is pretty much keeping them, as much in these games as they can. They don't have a horrible defense.
Yeah.
So they won the game 20-19. Kyle Allen still starting for for Washington. McKissick had 41 yards on 8 carries.
Yeah.
Gibson had another 30. Yeah, they didn't really do anything spectacular. So both these teams are kind of trash teams that are still somehow only 1 game out of leading their division.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of actually the worst division in football. One of the worst I've probably ever seen consecutive years. It just seems like no one wants to win this division
every year, man.
Every year. So it's like they're just such a train wreck. So that was that game. There's not much to talk about.
Yeah.
They're what they are.
Yeah, no, both teams are not very good, but we'll actually do a whole nother switch to teams that are good.
You got the good ones.
Switch to the week. O's have got to go. We'll have week 7. The O's have got to go, people. We got Pittsburgh at Tennessee. This matchup is going to be flaming. Yeah. Except for I think it's probably going to be really low scoring, so it's not going to be as entertaining as we're thinking. But I could see Steelers definitely playing a little bit better on defense. The Steelers are a very good defensive team. So I could see them maybe bottling up Derrick Henry, maybe holding him to maybe only 100 yards this year.
Oh, man. Bro, that's a slow night for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like the I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Ben Roethlisberger or who, but they said that Derrick Henry is basically like Bud Dupree as a running back, but faster and like stuff. And I mean, that's not a horrible comparison because Derrick Henry runs people over and he's so fast.
I don't know that I actually see Tennessee winning this game.
Yeah,
I think this is a bigger game for Tennessee than it is Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is an older organization that's won everything. They don't they don't have a whole lot to prove in this game. If they lose this game, I guess it's bigger for them for the stakes of the AFC North more than anything.
Well, here's the deal. They have not beaten a really good team yet. Their entire schedule has been mediocre teams. So this is their showing of, like, you know, everyone obviously believes in them. Like you said, this isn't really a big game for them as far as proving anything. However, if you really are paying attention to the games they've played, it kind of is. But the Steelers are such a good organization that it's not just because of the respect that they have from the entire league. And like you said, it's more for the Titans because they're a newer team. And, you know, they got to win these games to be legit. Ryan Tannehill, you know, Derrick Henry. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I'm excited to watch the game, too. I think Tennessee will win the game. I think that Tennessee... I don't know if I'd say they're better, though. I don't know if I'd say they're way better of a team, but I could see that this is truly a 50-50 game.
Yeah.
I think that either team could win. I think it really is just could come down to a field goal because both teams are really defensive minded and they both are teams that could both potentially win the game.
Yeah. So, it's funny that you're saying this because I'm going to choose the Steelers.
Okay.
Yeah, because, I mean, it really is a game that can go either way. But I think that the Steelers' offense is going to be a bit too much for the Tennessee defense. You got Juju Smith-Schuster, you got Claypool, Washington, and then you got James Conner at running back, and, you know, Ben throwing to them all. So it's just like, it's so much to prepare for. And I mean, the Titans did just shut down Josh Allen, who's a very hard person to, like, you know, defend against. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be a close game that the Steelers end up pulling out. But, you know, the Titans are obviously no scrubs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Derrick Henry is super hard to defend against. Whether you're a great defense or not, he's a force. Exactly. So, and Ryan Tannehill is playing really well ever since he left the Dolphins, and I'm rooting for him. I love him because I love that he just became super good. So, I'm rooting for the Titans. I think the Steelers are gonna win though, but like you, I think it's gonna be a close game. I could see it being like low 20 scoring is my assumption.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah, not like too much, but a decent amount. But yeah, so. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
But going from that to a potentially very fun game with the Buccaneers and Raiders. Yeah, you have a really good...
The Raiders.
Yeah, the Death Star. Tom Brady is going to the Death Star. It's funny because he used to have Bill Belichick, and they were kind of Darth Vader and the Emperor, and now Tom Brady's going to the Death Star. So it's a cool continuation of a story. But it should be a really good match. You have a pretty decent Buccaneers offense and a good Buccaneers defense against a pretty good Raiders offense. Probably the best offense they've had in years.
Yeah.
And, you know, you got Henry Ruggs back. Aguilar's actually catching balls. It's crazy. It's 2020.
Not
Anything
with
can
the
happen.
Eagles, yeah.
And Darren Waller, I mean, you know, clutch money. He's great. So, and I haven't even mentioned Josh Jacobs. But the Buccaneers have Ronald Jones, Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, Scotty Miller, LaShawn McCoy. So they have a lot of great people too. So I think it's going to be a really good game. I think the Buccaneers will win, personally, just because it's Tom Brady. They have a great defense. I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Raiders, but I can't say I fully 100% believe in them yet because they haven't won these games. And I almost feel like it's a statement win for both teams, really, because the Buccaneers, they just beat the Packers. That was a huge statement win.
Yeah.
And if they beat the Raiders right after, I mean, that's like, okay, we should definitely be believing in the Bucs. They're a contender, whatever. But if the Raiders beat them, I mean, they just beat someone who just shut down the Packers. That's a huge statement win for them. Then people are going to be like, was the Buccaneers win a fluke?
Yeah.
So it's a big game for both teams.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr and Tom Brady is a pretty fun matchup, especially with both offenses kind of, finally starting to produce. And with the Raiders, years we've been kind of waiting for them, and they're finally starting to do their thing. The Bucs, Tom Brady's starting to, kind of get into the groove and do his thing, at least well enough to win. So, I think the Bucs defense is better than the Raiders defense, and I think that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
I think it could be close, but I feel like the Bucs will kind of take the lead and run away with it at some point during the game. But Derek Carr. Last time we saw him, he went 347 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception against the Chiefs and beat them.
Yeah.
So they're not a bad team at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
And then Josh Jacobs had like 77 yards, and with Ruggs back, he's a really, just a threatening receiver. He stretches the field so much. He's so fast.
Yeah.
And then with Aguilar actually playing well, like it's something that's really a factor. And the Buccaneers, if they can get Gronk in, if they can get Godwin and Evans actually playing well, maybe Scotty Miller a little bit, Ronald Jones, we can always hope. Ronald Jones, I think Leonard Fournette's coming back soon, maybe. Yeah, so Leonard Fournette's coming back soon. So both offenses are very good, and I think it could be close, but I'm gonna choose the Bucs. The more I talk about it, the more I convince myself that it's gonna be close. Yeah. But I'm gonna stick with the Bucs, and I'm gonna hope the Bucs win just for AFC purposes. But
yeah.
It's gonna be close. I don't know. What about you?
All right, yeah, I think the Bucs are gonna win the game. I think that the game will be very competitive. I think that the Raiders are. I think that they proved, especially beating the Chiefs, that they're not just gonna be a pushover for any team that plays them. I do think the Bucs will win the game. I think the Bucs have a much better defense than the Chiefs, and I don't think that.
Well, Bucs have better. Than the Chiefs.
The Bucs have a much better defense than the Chiefs, and I think that they're able to. I think that they'll be able to get more pressure on Derek Carr throughout the course of the game than the Chiefs were ever able to get, because the Chiefs have a depleted defense. They have some players that are out, and their defense is just not as good as the Buccaneers. So I think the Buccaneers will win the game as well, actually, but I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah, for sure.
And another game we're going to talk about is Seattle and Arizona. I feel like I keep on talking about Arizona, but they're just such an exciting team for me. But
this is a great matchup.
This game is going to be very good. I think that Arizona really has to prove that, hey, we're a team in the NFC West that needs to be respected. And right now you have obviously the Niners and you have the Seattle dominance. But right now Arizona needs to make a stake on their claim that, hey, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFC West for years to come. And I think this is a big game for them. For Seattle, I would say not as much. They're 5-1, but this is still a decently big game for them in the division because they're 2-0. Arizona's 1-1, so this would both make them 2-1. So this could be a game down the road that could hurt them in the division.
Yeah,
so Seattle needs to win.
Them.
Yeah,
general,
exactly. Yeah. So Seattle I think that this is a big game for both teams. DeAndre Hopkins still has 601 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf has 496 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. So we're looking at a decently equal team here. We're looking at teams that at least Arizona and Seattle are different just for the fact that Arizona is just a new team, and we're looking to see what we want from them. Seattle is a team that is established. We have Russell Wilson. We have a really good team there.
Tyler Lockett.
So yeah, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Chris Carson. They have a team that it seems as if it has no choice but to win a Super Bowl, at least from the roster.
Yeah.
But I think Seattle will win this game. I don't think that Arizona is much. It is. I think it just depends on how much Seattle's line protects him. once again, we have another offensive line that may or may not be underwhelming. So we'll see if Seattle can. I really actually think the game will be a blowout, to be honest. I think Seattle will definitely handle them. I think Arizona's good, and they're 4-2, but I think that they're just not at the level of Seattle. I could see them putting up decently big numbers, but I think it just depends on how Budda Baker's ability to, because he played very well against Dallas. Mm-hmm. It just depends on Budda Baker's ability to get in that backfield and also affect the passing game, which is so effective with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and their company there, Moore, and I think it's Swain, I believe is his last name, one of the receivers they have on the team. So we'll see whether or not they can win, but I think Seattle will win the game.
Yeah, I have Seattle as well. Mm-hmm. I think it could be relatively closer than we might think, just because of just Carolina's roster. I just feel like they could kind of give the defense, Seattle's defense, a bit of a headache. But so I think it'll be relatively close, but I do think the Seattle will win. They're just a better team, I think. Russell Wilson, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
It's Russ.
One of my favorites of all time. It's Russ.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm always going to put my money on him.
Exactly.
So, Kyler Murray is an up-and-comer, Last week he didn't do so great. He did all right, but not great. 9 for 24. So, Russell Wilson, we have him playing at just a great year. And like you said, it's Ross. So Seattle's got my vote. I think it'll be at least competitive, but Seattle's definitely, I think, the one that will take it.
Yeah.
So we're going to hop right from that over to two teams we've actually talked about tonight. We're double dipping a little bit, but it looks like a pretty fun game, so I kind of just had to talk about it. The Cowboys in Washington. It's a division game. It's really, sadly, for the lead of the division, potentially at least. Yeah. Both these teams, they're looking they're looking like NFC East teams. So right now, I think I have more faith in Kyle Allen than I do in Andy Dalton.
Really? Okay.
A little bit. I think Andy Dalton, he has another week, but I'm going to say he has at least, I think this week he's still going to be learning it, and next week maybe is the week that he kind of starts doing okay.
Okay.
We'll see though, because he has a full week under his belt, but the Cowboys defense is so bad.
Yeah, it's awful.
And Washington's defense is at least okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go with Kyle Allen and and Washington football team. They've at least, they played the Giants last week. They stayed competitive.
Yeah.
And the Giants have a decent defense. Mm-hmm. So the Cowboys have a horrible defense. So maybe Kyle Allen just lights it up. Because he is starting next week, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So who knows? I could definitely see him lighting it up. McKissick could do pretty well. J.D. McKissick. So I'm going to choose Washington because I don't have much faith in the Cowboys. I had faith early in the season. They didn't give me much reason to believe in them, even with Dak. And now that they lost Dak, the one that, he's hard to replace, at least with Dalton. We all thought Dalton would be all right because he's literally the best backup quarterback in the league, probably, Andy Dalton. So that's why I'm kind of giving him a week or two to learn it, to see if he redeems himself, because he was just playing as the starter for the Bengals last year. So
yeah.
And the commentators were saying, this is basically a tryout year for him to kind of, become a starter somewhere else. But I think the Redskins will still win, and I think he'll make some mistakes, and who knows what Zeke's going to do. Hopefully he'll hold on to the ball, but who knows. But I am going to go with Washington. I think it'll be a close game, but I could see it being... I really don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what Andy Dalton's going to do. I thought last week could pop... I thought he'd just do better than 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
exactly.
I would assume it would be kind of close, kind of like this Giants-Washington game we had last week, the 2019, but I really have no idea. Mm-hmm. So it's up to Dalton. I need another week to really see how the Cowboys are going to be. but, who knows?
Yeah, I think I'd probably pick the Cowboys personally.
Yeah.
I think the Cowboys will probably get it back on track. I don't think that they're a team that will be bad for long. I think that they can definitely rebound from that game because, like we were saying, 21 of their 38 points that they conceded were based off just of turnovers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So I think that the Cowboys can definitely get a lot better in other areas, and I think they will get better in other areas and win this game.
Okay. Yeah. You never know.
I think we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be a good matchup for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna hop right from the games to our favorite segment, the Ravens.
Oh yeah.
So they played the Eagles last week, and they're in their bye week this week. Thank God, because the Ravens. So we've been saying all year we think the Ravens are good enough. They're gonna end up clicking. They're gonna be, fix their problems, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
On defense, they really have. They've been fixing their problems. They've gotten better. Marlon Humphrey's playing out of his mind, causing he had like 3 forced fumbles last game. We only got 1 back, but still, he had 3 forced fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
So our defense is really starting to tighten up like we thought it would. Our offense is not. It's just they haven't found their identity. They don't really know what they are yet. They haven't decided on what running back they want yet. They're just kind of all over the place. You don't know. It's almost like watching like the Flacco era. You don't really know what offense you're going to get. Are you going to get Lamar just balling out? Or are you going to get Lamar going like, throwing, like overthrowing receivers, or receivers just straight up dropping passes? Mark Andrews just not playing the line. It's just one of those things. You don't know what offense you're going to get yet.
Yeah.
And Lamar even said like he was proud of the offense last week because it was better than before, but it's still sky's the limit. And really, sky is the limit. Like it's the offense is so good, but I feel like Greg Roman is really limiting them. The plays that he calls sometimes are so boneheaded.
Yeah.
Was it the end of the first half when we had like 50 seconds left, and obviously a team of our caliber would go for a field goal there, try to at least get into a scoring position, and we ran it like twice.
Yeah.
Like why? And we didn't even call a timeout like immediately, and like just why would we do that? We have Marcus Brown who can stretch the field. We have Mark Andrews who can at least catch, most passes.
Yeah.
We have Boykin, we have Duvernay, we have Prochet. We have so many weapons.
Yeah, we could be way better than that.
That's the thing.
We can definitely be way better than that.
J.K. Dobbins, like we have so many people that could just be playing amazingly, and it's like I don't want to be that Ravens fan that blames their offensive coordinator after he led the team to like the number 1 offense, Lamar as MVP and whatnot. But this league is very much of what have you done for me lately, and what has Mark Roman done for us this year? We're like in the upper 20s in passing. We're I think we're a little bit higher on rushing, but still, we're not
where we should be though. We are definitely, Marcus Brown had 4 receptions for 57 yards in that offense. That's just really not enough. And Lamar Jackson was the lead rusher with 9 carries for 108 yards.
Yeah.
So we're not doing enough to get the ball out, and we're not doing enough in general. But I agree. No, I agree. I think that the Ravens have definitely been very subpar on offense this year. I think that, like you said, the sky's the limit. Lamar Jackson really needs to work into the offense. I think that he just is missing those throws that he was making last year, it seems. And so I think that he'll get it better in the offense. I do think that Greg Roman needs to get a little bit better, but Lamar Jackson was 16-27, 186 yards and a touchdown. So I think that he could be, obviously has room for improvement.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this bye weekend comes as a perfect weekend. I mean, a perfect week. We can get our, hopefully, mentality set straight. And we can hopefully beat the Pittsburgh Steelers next week.
Yeah, and they have...
Because we have that's a hard matchup.
Yeah, that's one of the better defenses we've probably played. And, I mean, besides the Chiefs, who just kind of they haven't played well this year, except against us. They just have our number. But besides them, the Steelers are probably one of the best defenses we've gone against. So it's going to be interesting to see what they draw up, how Lamar plays, and with the bye week, I think it's really going to help because we have an extra week to prepare, and I'm really glad it got switched because I feel like it really benefited us because I don't think we would have beat the Steelers next week if we played them. Just with Greg Roman's play style right now, it's like we had something that worked last year, and now we're just throwing that away and trying to get something completely new and different. And I don't understand that. And I'm hoping that with an extra week to kind of study the Steelers' play style, play calling, all that, and their defense, I think it's going to help the Ravens a lot. Yeah. And it gives Lamar just an extra week to kind of connect with his receivers. Again, we didn't have a preseason, so at this point, this is like kind of right where they'd be starting.
Yeah, he needs some time. They need a little bit of time.
Yeah, because there's some that he just barely throws like over his receivers, or there's a lot of drops this year. There's a lot of drops.
There's been a lot of drops.
So it's some on Lamar and a lot on the receivers.
Yeah.
But Lamar has definitely had his inaccurate throws, So it's one of those things that it's really just the entire offense right now is just struggling. I feel like they need to, like I said last week, they got to decide on a running back. And
so you would say that, that's the one thing to work on. What would you say your thing is the most to work on this bye weekend? The one thing you would say is the most thing. So you would say the running back position. Do you think that they need to sort that out, or?
Yeah, I'll go running back position. Yeah, I'll do that because if you have a legit running back helping Lamar, that helps so much, I feel like. Because, when you have, running back committee, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, we have great running backs, but come on, you got to commit to a back. You got to figure out who's your best back. Yeah. Give him the ball a lot. Let him actually eat. Because right now, every time a running back gets hot, it's like another running back gets in there, and no one can get hot. And we have great running backs. Mark Ingram he showed last year he can be one of the best in the league. J.K. Dobbins, he's got potential to be one of the best in the league. Gus Edwards, he's one of the best, just straight up running backs in the league, just running over people and getting yards.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out what you want to do. So I would say running back is the biggest thing they got to figure out. That and play calling, because just some of the play calling has been so moronic. I felt like it was like Camp Cameron days. I was pulling my hair out. It was. Yeah. It was early Joe Flacco era when we were trying to find offensive coordinators when they were just all boneheads. Yeah. So we really I think running back is one of those things. We have 3 great running backs. Commit to one, make it maybe 1, 2, 3 or 1A, 1B, 2. Something that's just different than what it is now, because we're a rush first team, whether you like it or not. We're a rush first team.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have great rushers from our quarterback to our running backs.
Yeah, 3 deep, really.
Yeah, so why aren't we using them? Why are we
deep with Justice Hill, I guess?
Yeah, so why are we forcing the pass so much? It's not that we don't have good receivers, because we do. Prochet and Duvernay are showing that they're really good this year, and
Brown and Boykins have even made catches. Even Snead really has made catches.
Yeah, it seems like besides the obvious drops that we've had from everyone.
Yeah, Andrews.
Andrews a lot. The receivers are all kind of stepping up, enough to what they need to do. And we have a good selection, and I think they'll develop over time. But we really just got to figure out this running back thing.
Yeah. I think that the most, I'd say that the most thing to work on this weekend is probably, I think Lamar Jackson really needs to work on himself. I think that he's missing these big throws. I think that Lamar has to really work on his passes enough. I think that he needs to be really more accurate, especially with hitting Marcus Brown. I think that he's had a lot of misses in general with Marcus Brown this year. And I think that they really need to work on that, because I think that if they had bigger passes and bigger plays, I think that our offense would be humming even more. Especially it would open up the run game more, because a lot of teams know that Lamar Jackson can't make the big pass, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So if he can show that consistently he can make that pass, then I think it pushes our offense forward as a unit.
For sure.
So I'm excited to see really how much better he gets as a passer, even throughout his career. Not just after this bye week, but throughout his career and onward.
Yeah, definitely, and I think he will get better. I mean, some of these throws he's just missing, and others he's way off. But it's once he gets these throws down, it's really going to open up the offense, like open up the running game, and the running game will open up the passing game, kind of like it did last year, and it's going to help out the Ravens a lot. But it's one of those things that takes time. He's obviously working on it. You can see him making strides this year. Obviously, he's kind of, on and off with it. There's a lot of drops to throw. I got to keep saying that. There's a lot of drops. So his stats don't look as good as they should. But, he's got that winning mentality. He's got that mentality he wants to get better and wants to keep training with the best to get as good as he can. He's going to keep up with Pat Mahomes. I mean, Pat Mahomes is like the standard, and Lamar sees that, and he's trying to surpass that. And who's to say he won't by the end of his career? It's just one of those things where we're really watching him grow, and he's got to just get a little bit better to just, beat these really good teams like the Chiefs and stuff, and the Steelers, and all these teams. And I think he will, especially in time, but I think this year he will, because he's going to get better every week. I think, like, he's not one of those players that is content with being like mediocre or good or great. Even, like, he wants to be the best. And you can really see that. You see that in him, Patrick Mahomes, just all the, like, they're just not going to, even Joe Burrow, they're just not going to be content with being mediocre. Like, they want to be the best. And that's what you want to see in your quarterback. And that's why I have faith that, our offense is struggling now, but eventually, no matter who is offensive coordinator, I think we're still going to be pretty good. I think we're going to figure out who we are. I think last year we were more rushing. We want to see how Lamar is passing this year. Maybe that's why it's been a little bit weird. But eventually we'll figure out, who exactly Lamar is, how to best use him, and we're going to win a Super Bowl with him, no doubt.
At least one, you'd think.
At least one, probably more. So I'm not worried, but at the same time, I'm heavily criticizing our offense right now because it's not good. Our defense is still pretty good, but our offense is, it's not good. So at least compared to these great teams like the Packers, the Chiefs,
the great teams
Seahawks
have great offenses. And we need to step up to the plate.
And obviously Lamar has the skill, and he will, but he just got to do it now. But so I think this bye week comes at a great time. It kind of good enough for him to do what he's got to do.
I'm excited to see how he does after the bye week. So,
do you? Obviously, we have another week, but as of right now, after bye week, Steelers or Ravens?
I think I'm gonna sit on it.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna sit on it.
Okay.
It'll be a surprise for the podcast next week.
Hey, I'll do the same then. We'll just make it a big old surprise.
All right. Well, now we'll move to the fantasy section. We might as well. We'll move to I'll ask you, Josh. What's your favorite waiver wire pickup?
What's my favorite waiver wire?
What's your favorite waiver wire pickup?
So I have 10 players on my watch list right now. So this week I came prepared. I was looking at it earlier. There's a few people I like, and I have a higher waiver than you, so I don't feel awful sharing these because I know you can't steal at least one of them from me.
Yeah.
I think my favorite pickup this week, I'm gonna go with Boston Scott. Miles Sanders out. The amount of volume he's going to get is going to be a lot. I actually originally drafted Boston Scott just as insurance for him, and I dropped him. This week I'm looking at picking him back up again because, he's going to get a lot of volume. He's going against the 24th ranked rush defense. So that's who I'm kind of targeting.
Yeah.
I have other people as well that, look decent. James White. I had Cole Beasley, who got picked up in our league. He's still only owned by 39% of rosters, and he's averaging 12.6 points. That's decent flex numbers. I think I brought him up before. I mean, he got 14.5 last week.
It's funny, my waiver wire pickup was also Boston Scott.
Really?
So, I guess my favorite waiver wire pickup. Yeah. So, I don't really have a waiver wire pickup, I guess. Because I don't really have many... I guess I wouldn't say I have many waiver wire because I'm not really looking to pick up many players.
Yeah, sure.
So, we'll see. Fantasy has been really entertaining this year. I think that because of the low depth at running back, it's made for a lot of interesting pickups, a lot of depth pickups.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I'm excited to see who your Simply Splendid Player of the Week is.
Before we go on to that, one of the other people, Jerick McKinnon, is not a bad pickup because you have Mostert being out for a while, but you don't know who they're going to lean on because they kind of have a lot of running backs.
Exactly.
And my wide receiver, I think, of the week is Adam Humphries with Tennessee. He's had a solid stat line, and this week he got 18.4 points. He just has some potential. And my tight end is between two, but I'll go with Dalton Schultz, like you talked about before. It looked like Andy Dalton was really targeting him a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he has 7.5 points. Nothing crazy, but still pretty good. And one other tight end that I'm really looking at, I don't think you're going to take him because you have Travis Kelce, is Darren Fells. He's owned in 5% of leagues. He's got 20.5 points last week, 13.7 before that. He had 4.1 and 0 before that, but also 10 in week 2. So he's playing decent enough that I would at least look at him and kind of watch him. Just, keep him on your watch list. You never know. He's the 15th ranked tight end. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
But as my Simply Splendid Player of the Week, I gotta go with Derrick Henry. He was simply splendid. He was so good. 212 yards. Who rushes for that many yards? 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, added another 52 receiving yards on 2 receptions. This man is a monster. He cannot be tackled. He's a giant running back who just does as he pleases. And 212 yards, 100 yards is a great game. 200 yards is what? That's like a college game.
Yeah.
So this man is just doing whatever he pleases with defenders. He's stiff arming them, throwing them to the ground, just staying up. So that he is my Simply Splendid Player of the Week. I think he's doing way better than I personally thought he would do this year, just because I was kind of salty last year with him beating us.
Yeah.
But he's a great running back and just had an amazing. That's off of 22 carries. That's just crazy. That's almost 10 yards a carry, almost. So it's just nuts. But
no, my simply splendid player of the week is DeAndre Swift. I drafted him in the 7th round of our league that we're in together, and he had 14 carries for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns, 8.3 yards per carry, 3 receptions for 7 yards. So, really, I mean, he had 27.3 points. So, you see the absolute production from DeAndre Swift, and the crazy thing is that DeAndre Swift can do much more with the receiving area. So, DeAndre Swift is an every down back. So, I think that we're going to hopefully see DeAndre Swift much more in their offense. And he was certainly a simply splendid player for me.
Sure. That's great. So, we have both of our simply splendid players of the week. Is that everything we're talking about today? It is. All right. Well,
thank you once again for listening to us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your hardworking day to listen to us. We'd appreciate it if once again you liked and subscribed. We potentially have some juicy details coming up about potentially moving to another platform. So
I was actually going to talk about it right now. Really? Going to Patreon. Yeah. We have it set up. We have a few tiers that you could possibly join if you want to. obviously all the episodes are going to stay free. We're just moving to Patreon because it's a little bit easier to listen to. You don't have to keep your phone or laptop on YouTube to listen to. You can just kind of shut it off and hear. Yeah. So it's a little bit easier for you all. Plus, it gives us the opportunity to make some tiers and, give you guys the opportunity to subscribe to them and get some exclusive content, whether it's merch or just asking questions, or we'll have it all set up within the next week. But
exactly,
we're very excited to launch on that platform, and I think it's going to be good for us and the listeners.
Definitely. So we're excited to give you more content in general in the next couple of for the whole season. So we'll be looking to see you hopefully on Patreon for that.
Yeah, for sure. So
thanks for listening.